So lately I've been doing a lot of thinking to like my childhood days, and it actually made me quite a feminine kid growing up. So for context, I was the guy who was allowed to go up in any like school trips when I was like in primary school. I was allowed to go swimming. I told his dad I don't even know how to swim. I've never been in a swimming pool. I even wasn't allowed to ride a bicycle because my mom was scared I'd like fall off and get a little scratch or whatever the case was. I even was allowed to spend time with like friends in my class if my parents weren't allowed. Obviously, all of these things have changed now, but I'm drawing back to like ages of 14 and under, and that actually makes you quite a like feminine guy growing up. I often speak about the stories where, for argument's sake, I was like giving flowers and love letters to these girls that like weren't interested in me, and I was just the guy who like used to follow all of these like love pages on Instagram, and I always question like firstly why it was this way, but also the problems with it. Now, if you think about it, simping might sound all wholesome and all that, like, shame you being all sweet and giving this girl flowers and all of that. And yes, it actually is wholesome. But the reality is, it also gets kind of creepy if you think about it. If this girl has no intentions on dating you and generally just doesn't have any attraction to you, then you have to admit that is kind of creepy. Now, of course, giving flowers to a girl you're dating or girl you, if like even your wife for that matter, perfectly okay, of course. But in the long term, I want you to now think about this mindset of becoming a masculine man, a leader of men. Now, I want you to imagine the following scenario. Say now you have a daughter and she's playing with a doll. But now the doll breaks, like the head snaps off or something crazy like that. Your woman will see this and probably also be like all sad and like panicky that your daughter is crying that the doll's head cracked off, and she'll probably also be sad actually seeing the doll's head cracked off. Now, if you follow suit and just like also get all sad and all panicked that this head cracked off, your daughter's still crying half an hour later, and neighbors are yelling at you that daughter's crying, all of that nonsense starts happening. And just like not a nice scenario to be in. But if you're a masculine man, you're a problem solver. Well, out your woman even know you just sneak out quickly, go to the shop, buy a new doll, problem solved. And that's the kind of scenario you want to find yourself in. I was actually speaking to my woman yesterday, and she noticed that often when we go to rest, actually every time for that matter, when we go to a restaurant, I choose the seat where we sit, and this probably sounds like very odd, like very basic to you, but the reason why I do it, she told me openly yesterday when she's like with her mom for argument's sake, and she has to choose the seat in a restaurant. She gets like very overwhelmed. She doesn't know where to sit. She like sees, okay, that one's like close to the door, so like you get fresh air, but then that one's like more comfortable seats and all of that. So like now she's overthinking every small scenario. And frankly, and you can probably relate to this, you don't really care where you sit, you just want a random seat. So you tell a woman we can just sit there, problem solved, you sit down, wasted is no time is wasted rather. And your woman is like avoided from this like uncomfortable position of having the burden placed on her to have to make the decision. Now, the finicky thing I do want to touch on also is there's this whole movement now about like anti-simping, which is obviously good. But that isn't to say you must be a gentleman. So if you're on a date with her, open the door for her. In a restaurant, pull back the chair for her, allow her to sit down, push her chair back in. If you think back to like the 90s, even the 80s, and like way back before you and I were even born, men used to do these things, and those were really successful relationships. Now we see these things as simping, and it really isn't simping. It's just being a man, a gentleman for that matter. And it's kind of frowned upon in the common society. And frankly, I'm not quite sure why, but I think it's stemming from like this insecurity of men where they, like me, had like a simping background, so they're trying to like undo that background. But back to the topic of like why being a feminine man also just generally speaking wouldn't work out. You probably want to date a feminine woman. But a feminine woman isn't going to date a feminine man. We often speak about polarity and opposites attract, and this is exactly where it comes into play. She will see a feminine man more as like a friend, like the gay best friend, for lack of better words. She's not going to date that guy. So you need to be a masculine man. How you do that is generally stop doing all the things I spoke about earlier, but I often speak about this side of things. Get on to self-development, workouts, and generally just have goals that, benefits you. But ultimately, you want goals that also benefits those around you in the long run. It's almost like you're taking ownership and responsibility for those around you. The amount of character that's going to build is tremendous. And naturally, you're going to become like a more masculine figure, and you're just going to have this more masculine mindset that like almost has like this caveman brain that looks out for the tribe around him. Because imagine the leader of the tribe. That was 100% like one of the most masculine men you can imagine. But you would also agree that that was a good man. He wasn't a man who like took advantage of the people around him. He treated them with love and respect. And that's the kind of man I want you to become. What they say, bro. I'll see you in the next one to become a better man.